Good morning, welcome back to Football League World TV for another week. It's Monday morning, which means it can be only time for the weekend review. I'm your host, George Dagless, and joining me this morning, Billy Mulley and Marcus Ally. Billy, how are you?
Yeah, doing well. Good weekend of League One, League Two action. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the Championship being back.
Yep, and Marcus, how's your weekend?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Fewer matches in the Football League, but that didn't mean any less drama, so I'm looking forward to having a chat about it.
Yeah, plenty to discuss this morning. Of course, it was the international breaks, no championship fixtures, and a few League One games missing as well, but still plenty to talk about. Let's get straight into it and talk Charlton's win at Burton, first of all. It was quite a entertaining affair. 1-0 might suggest perhaps not 1-0 to the Addicts, but there's plenty going on and off the field during this game at the Pirelli Stadium. Jayden Stockley and Deji Osalaja both got themselves sent off. We'll get to that in a minute. But first of all, Marcus, obviously you're a Charlton fan. Let's talk about the result in itself. Ben Purriton getting the goal. An important win for the Addicts and quite an impressive one as well, because I think we sort of spoke last week on the London show, suggesting this was going to be quite a tough game for Charlton.
Absolutely, yeah. And it did sort of pan out in that way. It was really tight. So to get on the right side of those fine margins and get the 3 points is really, really important. Obviously, Johnny Jackson's got such a good record now in just a short space of time. He's got more points now in 4 games than Nigel Adkins managed in 13 in League One this season. And obviously, yeah, the Jayden Stockley, Deji Osalaja debacle might have sort of overawed the rest of the match. But I think Ben Purriton definitely deserves a lot of plaudits for the way he settled into his new, more attacking left wing-back role under Jackson, and he proved the difference.
Well, what did you make of Osalaja and Stockley scrap? I mean, it was quite aggressive, wasn't it? I mean, obviously teammates last season at the Vale. I saw one tweet where there's no real sort of substance behind this, but someone suggested that there might have been a bit more behind it than just one of the sort of arguments you see on a football pitch. Perhaps something happened last season at the training ground or something like that. That could be pure conspiracy theory stuff. But what did you make of those two sort of going tete-a-tete early on in that game?
Well, I mean, Stockley, a few weeks ago against Sunderland, there was a sort of maybe headbutt on Tom Flanagan, which Lee Johnson was hoping he would get a retrospective ban for. Nothing came of it, but he was definitely the guilty party here against Deji. I really liked Osalaja as a player for Charlton. I can't help but feel bad for him because having seen it back, it does look like Stockley is the main aggressor in this wrestling match, really. He'll definitely be out for 3 games, violent conduct. I think if Burton appeal the decision, then Osalaja has a chance of maybe getting a reprieve. With 2 players being 10v10 from very early on in the match, I think it put Charlton in a nicer position because you probably would rather have your striker sent off than your captain and centre-back. It means Jimmy Floyd-Hasselbaink had to reshuffle his pack a little bit more. Johnny Jackson it was a 3-5-2. It ended up just being a 3-5-1. So they kept really playing the same players in the same position. So I feel bad for Deji, to be honest. Stockley's been on the edge with some of the things he's been doing in the last few weeks. There was a possible elbow in the Rotherham match that he got booked for. So, yeah, I don't really understand what was going on. I don't think there was maybe anything more than just a bit of pushing and shoving that escalated into something else. I wouldn't suggest that it was probably something that a tiff that had started last season. But no, yeah, it's not really what we like to see. But yeah, Trevor Kettle couldn't get the cards out quick enough.
No, Trevor Kettle certainly got a little bit of stick as well, as he quite often does, unfortunately, on social media. Billy, let's come to you. Obviously, Jimmy Floyd-Hasselbaink and Johnny Jackson had a little bit of a few words exchanged as well during the game. Do you think, for Charlton fans, perhaps a few weeks ago under Nigel Adkins, they wouldn't have shown as much fight? So, yes, as Marcus says, it's never nice to see players getting red cards and that kind of thing, but Charlton have shown a lot more fight now, aren't they?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is that they're winning in different ways. You go back to the Sunderland game, it was very much his first game, so it was more about preserving and sucking in Sunderland and then hitting them on the counter-attack. But this was a game where both were reduced to 10 men inside 20 minutes. And then Ben Purriton scored 2 minutes later, so 70 minutes of controlling Burton. And in total honesty, Burton barely threatened. I think that's a big credit to Charlton's defence, but I think that's also a problem within the Burton camp at the moment. I don't think they're creating enough chances, and got the likes of Charlie Lake and Harry Chapman in there, and you shouldn't expect that to be a problem with players of that calibre. But that's what we're seeing. And yeah, as I say, credit does have to go to Charlton with the way they've played out the game and not let that Stockley red card get to them. Obviously, that could have been a big changing point in sort of shifting the momentum with Johnny Jackson's reign so far. But ultimately it didn't. And Charlton came off the better side and proved that for the entire 90 minutes in my eyes.
Yeah, certainly a good performance, or a good win, at least, for the Addicts. They're up to 17th now in League One. Burton sit a full place above them in 13th. Up next, we're going to talk Plymouth's 4-1 win at Accrington Stanley over the weekend. Ethan Hamilton own goal put our goal on the way. Jordan Houghton got the second just before half-time. Accrington hit back just after the break through Tommy Lee, and then goals from Ryan Broom and Ryan Hardy rounded off the win for the Pilgrims in pretty emphatic style. Billy, you look at some of the stats in the game. Accrington actually had 19 shots compared to Plymouth's 9, but I guess that kind of shows why Plymouth at the moment are very much in that promotion race, and Accrington are sort of sitting mid-table right now.
Yeah, for me, it's another big statement result, and no one seems to be able to handle Plymouth at the moment. As you say there, Accrington gave it a very good go in terms of the amount of shots they had. It controlled large amounts of the game as well in terms of possession, but Plymouth are scoring goals, and that's without Jeffcott. That's without sort of players that have missed games. They haven't fully had a side together for this whole season. They've had players out that have in crucial times, really, but they've managed to keep this winning run and unbeaten run going. And at the moment, they're looking very, very good in terms of promotion as well. I think that's what they should be looking at, and I can't really see too many teams upsetting them at the moment. Accrington have a clear problem against teams in the top half, and more specifically in sort of the top 8. I think that's 6 losses now against teams in the top 8. And that kind of consistency is plaguing them all season in my eyes. I think it's coming down to they're not firing like they were last season. You think back to Dion Charles and Colby Bishop, the amount of goals they were getting. Obviously, different season, different problems have arisen, but Accrington, haven't really found that formula yet. Whereas Plymouth are a side that I compare them to my team Luton when they won League One in the 2018-2019 season in terms of having that winning run. They look to be improving. At the start of that unbeaten run, there was quite a lot of draws in there, but now they've turned those draws into wins, and quite convincing wins in that. They've got a young progressive manager whose philosophy is he's starting to reap its rewards. And I think the only way is up for Plymouth at the moment.
Yeah, certainly looking good at home park right now. Marcus, let's touch on Accrington a little bit more. Where do you think it's slightly going wrong for them at the moment? I mean, since they've been in League One, they've been very competitive in the third tier. I think it's fair to say punched above their weight. I think some people would say as well. This season's by no means been a write-off, but they're sort of sitting mid-table, and it kind of looks like where in previous years you thought maybe they're going to flirt with the playoffs. This season, at the moment at least, it kind of looks like that's not really going to materialise.
I'm not too concerned, really. I think the 4-1 was pretty harsh on Stanley in terms of the scoreline. Plymouth kind of ran away with it. It was competitive until Ryan Broom scores that excellent third goal. I think defensively is where their issues lie mainly. Scoring goals hasn't really been a problem this season. If they can tighten up at the back, then I think they will start picking up points and getting closer to that top 6. But I mean, with the budget and the squad at his disposal, I think John Coleman's still doing a great job to have them in mid-table, no relegation fears. And I think it's still quite evenly matched and quite tight. If a team does win 2 or 3 games in a row, they're going to shoot up the table, such as how sort of clustered it is in the middle of League One. So I'm not too concerned, but I think the issue is defensively, and that's where teams like Plymouth have been able to take advantage quite easily.
Okay, that result leaves Accrington 14th in the League One table. Plymouth going really well. As we've said, they're currently sitting top of the third tier. Up next, another 4-1 scoreline, this time in the favourite MK Dons beating Cambridge United at home. Scott Twine getting a brace in the first half. Max Waters even, getting a goal in the first half, and then another in the second half. Sam Smith getting a late consolation for United. Billy, MK Dons, when they really turn it on, they're a really impressive side to watch, aren't they?
They are, and I think that all comes down to Liam Manning and what he's been able to continue this season. I think when Russell Martin left, it seemed that for quite a lot of MK Dons fans, like the world had fallen apart. But I think what Manning has done is he's managed to sort of continue that momentum, continue the playing style, and make sure players are not out of their comfort zone in terms of going into pre-season and operating in one way and then completely changing it. Sorry, they've kept to their task, they've kept to their playing philosophy, and I think they're reaping the rewards of it. In terms of Scott Twine as well, he's a player I've spoken highly about before. I was hoping that Luton would get him, but he went into League One, and there's been a lot of players in League One this season with high expectations. I think we talk about sort of Lewis Wing being a player that should have really lit up the division, but I think Scott Twine is a name that had that expectation, and he's delivering at the moment, scoring goals, creating chances, progressing the play. He's a real talent at this level, and I think the future is quite bright for him. In terms of MK Dons as a collective, they just look very, very threatening going forward. Goals are coming from everywhere, chances are coming from everywhere, and the fact that they can switch it on whenever, play nice football around the back, and then suddenly there's that sort of tick, and that's what sparks a quick attack. You've got wing backs that fly forward and join the attack at any given moment. And yeah, I've been really impressed with what I've seen of MK Dons at the moment, and I think Cambridge were just on the receiving end of a very good performance.
I guess, Marcus, the consolation really for Cambridge is, this season they're never going to be sort of judged on the results they get against the teams that you would expect to be in and around the playoffs. They're sitting 12th in the league at the moment. It's been a good season so far for them. They just need to make sure they get the results against those sides that are lower down than them in the table.
Absolutely, yeah. They've had such a good start that they've put themselves in a position where they can maybe exclusively do that and stay in the division. I think they've got 22 points at this stage. That must give them a 7-point cushion off the top of my head. So if they can keep picking up points, which we haven't been expecting them to, and perform well. I know they beat Morecambe a few weeks ago. That's a fellow promoted side that we think could be down there come the end of the season with them. So yeah, Mark Bonner will want to keep the relegation battle at an arm's length, and he's making a really good fist of doing that so far. Yeah, I think better teams than Cambridge are going to end up taking possibly heavy defeats against MK Dons this season, the way they're playing under Liam Manning. Credit to them and the board after losing such a key figure in Russell Martin at the start of the season. But on to Cambridge, yeah, there's still a lot of confidence in Mark Bonner, and he's doing a great job. And I'm sure the fans will be very confident after their start of the season that they can maintain their status this season.
Yeah, certainly looking pretty decent for them overall, Cambridge. Obviously a tough result at the weekend, but as we've mentioned, sitting 12th in the League One table at the moment. MK Dons up in the playoff places, sitting in 5th. Up next, we're going to talk Sheffield Wednesday's 1-1 draw with Gillingham. Billy, what do you make of this result from a Wednesday perspective? I think they probably would have thought that this was a game that they should have won, really, but particularly given the unbeaten run they're on at the moment. Yeah,
it's frustrating. I think draws are becoming a common theme with Sheffield Wednesday. I think statistically looking at it seemed that Sheffield Wednesday should have gone on, the amount of shots on target, possession as well. But I think they're lacking a bit of cutting edge at the moment. As I said, they're enjoying lots of possession, shots. When you've got players like Barry Bannon, you're always going to get a 30-yarder. Players like Lewis Wing as well. He's a similar kind of player that will test keepers from quite far out. But yeah, it's the lack of clear-cut chances at the moment that's preventing them from taking all 3 points. And yeah, it seemed that this Gillingham game was a similar game in terms of the frustrations that were created from it. One player I have been really impressed with, and watching the extended highlights, it seemed that he was involved with pretty much everything that Wednesday put forward, was Theo Corbiano. And I thought he was older than he is. He's 19 years old, and he's such an exciting talent. His quick feet, his end product, everything about him at the moment looks like he can go on and unlock League One. I think he's going to be key as this season progresses, and Sheffield Wednesday need to turn their fortunes somehow, and I think it's going to be through him.
Yeah, certainly looks a real talent. Marcus, as for Gillingham, obviously took the lead with Verdane Oliver at the weekend, but winning games has proven a real difficulty for them so far this season. They've only won just the 3 matches in the third tier, drawn 8 games, which perhaps is no surprise that they drew again at the weekend. How do they go about turning those draws into victories? Because that's what they're going to need to do to climb up the table.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I don't think they've got the firepower to really do it. It's going to be resting on the fine margins how they do this season. I think Steve Evans and everyone at the club is well aware that the chances are they're going to be fighting against a drop until towards the back end of the season. They lost a few players. Like Jordan Graham was huge for them last season, obviously overperforming, I think, to finish in the top half. And Verdane Oliver scoring 17 goals last season. Before last season, he'd only scored 7 in a Football League campaign, was his highest tally. So to then go and score 17 was maybe not as repeatable maybe this season. Obviously grabbed a key goal against Sheffield Wednesday. That was his 5th in the league. So Oliver is really a key man up front. He's crucial to the way they play. His all-round game is excellent, which sort of shows how he's a striker that hasn't had a very prolific goal-scoring return in his career, but finds himself playing in League One. So it's going to be difficult for them to hit the heights they did last season, but there's enough fighting spirit in there. Steve Evans has got the experience. So maybe if they get a nicer run of fixtures, they'll be able to pull away a little bit.
Okay, we will see how they get on. Certainly in the scrap at the moment, though. Gillingham sitting 19th in the third tier, Sheffield Wednesday in 8th on the back of that draw. Let's move into Sky Bet League 2 then. We'll start with the game that was shown Saturday lunchtime on Sky Sports. Port Vale's 1-1 draw with Bradford City. Had Port Vale won by a big enough margin, Billy, they could have been sitting top at the League 2 table. Do you think they'll sort of rue the fact they only got a draw at home to the Bantams?
I think so in some respects, because as you say, it was a big opportunity for Port Vale to threaten top spot with Forest Green out of action. And in terms of the way the game played out, yes, they had some good opportunities to go on and win the game. But so Bradford, I think Bradford are a side that are slowly coming into their own now. They struggled for consistency early on in the campaign, but I think with Adams at the helm, they're a team that's sort of slow burner. They'll keep on progressing. They'll, similar to what Morecambe did, really. They'll keep on progressing, and as the season progresses, expect them to threaten the playoff spots more. But yeah, as you say, a big opportunity to basically put Forest Green under a lot of pressure. Port Vale have been really, really strong this season. They're a side that deserve to be up there. They've had the narrow defeat against Sutton. That they were very unlucky to come away with a defeat. But apart from that, I think they've looked the best side or the second best side, and deserving of their second place. I think as the season progresses, it's about maintaining that. I think there's teams in the division that are sleeping at the moment, likes of Bradford, as we said, that are going to get better, likes of Bristol Rovers, Mansfield. I expect them to come good. So it's just making sure that they can maintain this early form, and I think they've got every reason to dream for automatic promotion this season.
Okay. Marcus, do you think Bradford will be the happier side with this point? I mean, obviously going away to a team that's been flying high so far. I mean, Bradford's form has been, as Billy said, a little bit up and down at times this year.
Yeah, probably. Considering they went behind in the second half as well, at that stage, you'd probably take a point. But I'd argue they maybe created the better chances than Port Vale in this one. It's a team that's been extremely strong at home this season. So it's a great point for Derek Adams' men. And also as a bit of an individual error from Jan Songo for James Wilson to end up sneaking in and giving Vale the lead. So plenty of reasons for optimism. And of course, the Bantams have been very strong at home this season. So points on the road, take it back to Valley Parade and hope to kick on. There's a 4-point gap between them and the playoff places now. So they'll be looking to really close that as we move towards the turn of the year.
Yep, they certainly will. Port Vale sitting in second then. After that 1-1 draw with Bradford. Bradford just inside the top half in 11th. Up next, we're going to talk another win for Harrogate Town. 3-1 victory over Walsall away from home. Simon Power set them on their way in the first half, and then goals in the second half from Jack Diamond and Luke Armstrong effectively sealed the 3 points. Kieran Phillips did get a late consolation for the Saddlers. Marcus, let's talk Harrogate first of all. Back to winning ways, much needed, really, wasn't it? After 3 losses in their last 4 games in the league.
Yeah, they've been reliant on scoring quite a lot of goals to win games so far this season. I think Jack Diamond and Luke Armstrong are really crucial for that. 2 players that I don't think we'll be seeing in League Two, maybe beyond this season. They've just been so good. Diamond, of course, on loan from Sunderland, is probably only out on loan in League Two due to the Black Cats having quite a big squad for League One. So he's really impressing there. And they find themselves in an interesting little cluster now in League Two between 5th and 8th place. You've got Harrogate, Newport, Swindon and Sutton all on 26 points. So how that's going to rearrange in the weeks to come will be interesting. But yeah, Simon Weaver's been at Harrogate for a long time. He knows a lot of the players very well. And this win should really give them belief that the top 7 finish is on this season after what was a little bit of a disappointing run. They didn't really live up to the expectations that they'd set at the start of the season in the last month or so. But against a decent Walsall side, this is definitely a very significant win.
Yeah, it certainly is. As for Walsall, Billy, I guess it's not really time to panic, is it? I don't think we're ever going to expect them to be challenging for the playoffs this year, but obviously you look to the way they started this season, they were struggling. They picked up a fair amount in the last few weeks. Obviously, that was a loss the weekend, but before then, they'd been on a fairly decent unbeaten run. And then you look at some of the stats from the game. They gave Harrogate a really good contest. 16 shots for Walsall to Harrogate's 8. 62% possession in the Saddlers' favour. Yes, it was a defeat, but one they can take positives from, and obviously, they're going to be looking to beat those sides around them more than anything. And it's kind of similar to what we said about Cambridge, isn't it? That as long as they beat the teams that are in and around them in the table, games like that against sort of playoff contenders perhaps aren't going to be as important come the end of the season.
Yeah, I think what we've seen with Walsall as well, I thought they turned a corner really. 6 games unbeaten against the likes of Exeter, Leyton Orient, Salford and Sutton, teams that are up there or we expect to be up there come the end of the season. And they were showing 12 points from a possible 18. It was a really good sort of period for them over the last month or so. But yeah, I think more than anything, this shows how good Harrogate have been, how impressive it is that they've got back to winning ways. And yeah, I just want to echo what Marcus was saying about Jack Diamond. I think he's an absolute cheat code at this level. I think with Sunderland, I was expecting him to be a big player for them this season, and given the talent that they have, he's come over on to League Two. I think he's deserving of a League One loan move, but come down to League Two, and he's really got back into the groove with the Harrogate side that he left. So yeah, I've been really impressed with him. But Walsall, it won't be too disheartened yet. I think what we're seeing is a very, very close pack outside the playoff position, similar to what we're seeing in the Championship. In terms of points difference between, I think it's 5th and 15th, it's only 6 points. So within 2 games, the complex completely changes. So I think with Walsall, what we're going to see is a couple of wins, and people might start dreaming of the playoff positions, but a couple of losses. Probably it'll be another season of mid-table mediocrity, which was quite similar to last season.
Okay, Harrogate sitting in 5th on the back of that win at Walsall. The Saddlers are down in 15th. Up next, we're going to talk Sutton United's 1-0 win at Tranmere. Isaac Fay getting the all-important goal for the away side. Marcus, an impressive victory, one of many that Sutton have had this season so far in League Two.
Yeah, definitely quickly becoming one of my favourite teams to cover, I think, in the Football League, Sutton United. It's a great story. It has to be said, it was a rare Peter Clark individual error that led to the goal, but it was a really good away performance. David Ajiboye on the right wing is such a threat. Really caused Tranmere a lot of problems, and yeah, it's an excellent win. There's so much. I'd be interested to see if you could compare the 11s that faced off against each other, and maybe the amount of Football League appearances that Tranmere have in their squad compared to Sutton. Obviously Matt Gray's side come away with the 3 points. I think they might actually be able to compete for automatic promotion this season if they can continue performing the way they are. Obviously, Alfie scored quite a lot for them last season, so important for him to get a goal. Quite a young striker as well. There's a lot of players with quite a high ceiling in this squad, I think, and this is definitely not the last impressive result we'll see from Sutton this season. As for Tranmere, is disappointing. Obviously, their goals for column is pretty concerning, but you have to give credit to Sutton nonetheless. They're looking really good and sat just outside the playoff places. I don't think they'll be outside them for very much longer.
Certainly going along nicely. Mark has just touched on it there, Billy. Tranmere's goals for column is not good. In League Two, they're the joint lowest goal scorers in the 4th tier. The only thing that's helped them sort of be mid-table at the moment and on the outskirts of the playoffs is the fact that they've only conceded 11 goals as well. So defensively they're very good, but offensively they're really struggling. And again, that was reflected in the stats on the weekend. Had 16 shots to Sutton 17. So in that respect, competitive, but just the one on target and obviously no goals again. At what point? They're going to have to go into the January market, aren't they? You would think, and try and find some, new attacking players.
100%. Yeah, it would be interesting to see how they go because obviously they're a team full of experience at the moment, a team full of Football League experience as well. So it'll be interesting to see if they go down that route or do they sort of look to the National League, who's been impressing there, who's got potential and sort of pick up a striker from sort of the depths of the non-league as well. So there's definitely a lot of options when it comes to addressing that. I think it's creating chances as well that's a problem. So I don't think it's just buying a striker and then expect your problems to be solved. It's also making sure that you've got the supply. And I think, it's a couple of problems that are pretty much preventing them from progressing at the moment. We've seen them in the playoff positions. But unless something's addressed in January, I don't think that they'll be able to maintain that position. Because as we've seen, it was a little lapse of concentration from Clark, and the Millwall only comes in and capitalises on it basically. And if you add him to Tranmere, do Tranmere start seeing better results, and do they strengthen their playoff push? I think they might be looking at that and thinking a player that's played non-league football quite recently. He could come in. Well, not him particularly, but a player of his Football League experience could come in and sort of try and solve those problems.
James Norwood's transfer listed at Ipswich Town at the moment. I don't know if Tranmere could bring him back. It might be financially out of the realms of possibility, but I'm sure Tranmere fans at least would like that as a potential one to dream about, maybe heading into the January window. That result leaves Sutton in 8th in League Two, Tranmere sitting in 12th. One final game to talk about on the weekend review this morning, and that's Mansfield Town's 2-1 win over Stevenage. John Joe O'Toole put the Stags in front. Stevenage did get back into it soon after the second half had begun through Scott Cuthbert, but Ryan Sturck gave Mansfield all 3 points. Billy, Stevenage is a club that's quite local to your team, Luton. How much you follow Stevenage as a Luton fan, or how much you want to see them do well, I'm not too sure. But, Alex Ravel's left the club now. Do you think that's probably the right decision from them?
Yeah, I think it's come with a heavy heart. Obviously, done a lot as a player there. Showed promising signs during the early stages of his career as a manager there. All round good guy as well. Everyone loves him around the club, and I'm sure he'll stick close. He'll whatever the future may hold, he'll keep Stevenage close to his heart. But I think it's time to move on. Stevenage have a squad that does not warrant a 21st place position at the moment. I think they've got quality in abundance within that squad, a young squad as well. And I think what we're seeing is a team that are heading on the decline when they really shouldn't. They recruited well in the summer as well. Taylor coming in and really shoring up that midfield. I think their attacking options as well are very strong with Elliot List, Jamie Reid and Norris as well. He's a real handful. I've seen them against Luton in the first round of the Cup. Luton had the likes of Musquay, Jerome, Henry Lansbury all playing quite a strong Luton side, and Stevenage were the better side. And I thought this was going to be a really good season for Borough. But something's gone wrong. we're in a position now, I think, that they could either go down the route that they've gone down in past and look to steady the ship and bring in a manager that will stop the rot and maybe not be the most exciting appointment in the world, but someone that will help them steer clear of those relegation places, or they can take a gamble with a young progressive manager who can work well with the young squad that they do have. Still, 29 games to go this season, so I think I'd opt for the latter, but I'm not too sure what could happen. Definitely a lot of options for Stevenage and Wallace to consider.
Certainly is. As for Mansfield, Marcus, in terms of potential managerial exits, Nigel Clough's been under pressure, isn't he, with the Stags? But 2 wins in the last 2 games in the league, that alleviates it a little bit, that pressure. Do you think we're going to see Mansfield go on a run now, or is it a little bit too early to say?
I'm not sure. I think in a few weeks we'll be able to find out whether this is just a flash in the pan or Clough has really turned it around. We've seen he's been quite critical of his players over the last year or so in post-match interviews and things like that, even though he's now had quite a few transfer windows to put his own stamp on the team. So I'm really not sure with Mansfield. It doesn't really add up. Every summer I've sort of gone in and seen their squad and thought, blimey, they should be competing towards the top end, and then they end up sort of in the depths of the bottom half. It was an excellent win at Stevenage. It was quite hardly. They had to fight hard to get it. Just the 2-1 after, of course, that Scott Cuthbert equaliser. So a momentum building win. It pulls them away from the relegation zone, which I think is crucial for Clough's future. I think the board are happy to trust him with the work that he's done in the past to suggest he can have them on an upward trajectory in the future. So it's going to be interesting. They've got the players to do it. I'm not sure I trust Nigel Clough, considering some of the really poor runs and unflattering performances we've seen from Mansfield already this season to keep that run going. The win at Sunderland also was very impressive in the FA Cup. So I'm not sure is the answer. We'll have to wait and see on that. But I think definitely in performances in isolation, they've got the quality, but I'm not sure if they'll be consistent enough to really climb the table.
Okay, yeah, but as you say, good result for Mansfield in isolation at the weekend. That lifts them up to 18th place in the League 2 table. Stevenage sitting in 21st. Right, coming up on Football League World TV, before we leave you, we've got the debate at 1:30. Alfie Burns going to be hosting that one. He's joined by Ned Holmes and Chris Thorpe. They'll be talking 3 EFL clubs you should start a career with in Football Manager 2022. That's coming out. I think has it come out of the game? I'm not too sure on that. It's come. Marcus is nodding. He knows the score. Still addicted to it, clearly. And then at 4 o'clock, the EFL Transfer Zone. Sam Rourke is hosting that one. He's joined by Billy, and Adam Jones will be there as well. But thank you, one and all, for joining us this morning. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Marcus and Billy, thank you for joining me as well on the Weekend Review. We'll speak to you very soon.